Too much shenanigans enough, I guess.
Ah, there you go. He's not getting into any. That's good, Jake. I appreciate it. All right, we got to take a break. Good stuff. That was fun. Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus. He joins me next right here on the Fan.
Switching your motorcycle insurance to Geico is both easy and could save you hundreds. It's the best of both worlds. Like a tunnel made of funnel cake. A funnel tunnel. It sounds like the state fair.
Yeah, the automatic sugar sifters are nice touch.
Geico Motorcycle. It's easy savings. The best of both worlds.
Hey, it's Dustin for Northeast Factory, correct? You've been hearing me rave about Northeast for a while now. Let's talk about kitchen remodeling. And believe it or not, it's a great time to remodel your kitchen. Unless you've recently done it, your kitchen's probably a little bit outdated. You might think a new, modern, high-quality kitchen is out of your price range. At Northeast, you can get high-quality cabinets for 60 to 70% less than expensive retail stores. And quality upgrades, solid wood, full extension door lines, cushion closed drawers, case doors, and more. Go to look up the leader on every cabinet and Northeast Factory direct. At Northeast, it's really simple. Big equipment, bring it to me.
you were the Browns, when you have a star in Myles Garrett, star in Denzel Ward, would you be better off spending a lot of money on another great corner and another great pass rusher, and then spending minimally on the rest? Would you be better off kind of spending mid-range on 4 or 5 guys?
Yeah, I think mid-range when it comes to defense especially. You're trying to kind of mitigate running risk defensively and add depth. It's really not – defense isn't really a star-driven game. You are better off having more of like a solid 11 than, a couple stars and not much else. And again, you guys hear me talk about it all. That play is just so difficult. So that's the position where I'm just bringing in a ton of bodies, even with Greedy Williams coming back, and just the secondary in general. Bring in a ton of bodies and see what sticks. I think that's your best bet to build a defensive line.
So trading. So if you were the Browns, trading for Marcus Lattimore, and I don't think he graded out that well last year, but trading for Marcus Lattimore and giving him a big extension, not a good plan.
It's not that it's a bad plan. I mean, I'm definitely intrigued by it. So cornerback works. There's multiple ways to get there. I mean, I think Lattimore, even with the grades, he is still really, really good. He just has a challenging role. He's got to try to cover Mike Evans twice a year, which he does well at. He has to try to cover Julio Jones twice a year. I love the idea of having 2 elite corners, and I think what the Patriots did when they got Stephon Gilmore a couple of years ago is, it also depends on if you do play matchups, right? Like with New England, they play matchups, so Stephon Gilmore has this trickle-down effect to the rest of their secondary. The idea of Denzel Ward and Marshawn Lattimore, 2 Ohio State guys, but with 2 different body types, styles. If you are going to play matchups and that's your style, that's your plan, gives you more flexibility because Lattimore's better against some of the bigger guys and Ward has the speed and shiftiness. So there's something to it, but it is a big investment. It's a lot of money plus the extra draft capital. So you're talking about a player that needs to be worth essentially multiple players plus a whole lot of money. So there's some risk there, but the payoff could be incredible because Lattimore is fantastic.
It's hard to say what his the value is in a trade, right? Because he's an excellent player, but he's got 1 year left on his contract, and you got to sign him to an extension most likely. So what do you think is a fair? But they're in a bad cap spot, the Saints. So what's the fair trade value? Do you think?
It's always what people are going to pay. When the Texans are going to pay for Laramie Tunsil, who would do an extension and gave up multiple first rounders for him. I wouldn't expect that either. And then you see some of the QB, trade options and stuff. So somewhere it's not going to be Deshaun Watson type of stuff, but it's knowing that teams gave up a lot of money for Laramie Tunsil or Khalil Mack at times when they still knew they had to pay them. Maybe it's the Forrest Buckner is a better proxy for it, though. Last year at this time, do an extension, and it's just a straight first-round pick, mid-first-round pick that the Colts gave up for DeForest Buckner of the San Francisco 49ers. You might be looking at something like that. But, yeah, there's not a whole lot of corners that you can point to and say, this guy can do it all. Lattimore is definitely one of them.
We're talking with Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus. Steve, Grant Delpit missed his entire rookie season after being a second-round pick by the Browns. A lot of optimism for him in the second year. What kind of impact, assuming health, what kind of impact do you think he can make this year for the Browns?
I think a big one. I was pretty optimistic about him, too. I love that pick in the second round. He's just going to cut down on the missed tackles. I think it was 38 missed tackles over 2 years at LSU his last 2 seasons. But, it's funny. I was just talking to some coach who said he didn't really care about missed tackles. He's like, I want my guys to be aggressive, fly in his ball. If they miss every now and again, that's fine. But that's kind of Delpit's game. He is all over the field. He's got good range. You can play him at free safety. He'd be a rangy underneath coverage defender, zone type of coverage defender. So I like Grant Delpit quite a bit. I'm optimistic about what he definitely could bring to that secondary when healthy as well.
Steve, we talked a little about Dak Prescott in the past, but I was saying earlier this week that if I'm Dak Prescott, even though there is some risk, because he had a big injury last year and he has another one, who knows. But if I were Dak Prescott at this point, I would not sign an extension with the Cowboys unless they paid me Watson or Mahomes money, which they probably won't. And my argument is that after this year, he's either a free agent or they got to franchise him for like $50 million. So why would I sign at any kind of reasonable rate if I'm him now?
I think that's a fair point. And the third thing I think that is working in his favor is
was trying to figure this out on our podcast yesterday. What other contracts are going to be kind of the gauge for Dak? And we know that Josh Allen is probably going to get extended soon. Lamar Jackson is probably going to get extended soon. And Baker's going to get extended soon, right? I mean, there are other quarterbacks, and those guys are going to be up in that $40 million range potentially, right? So right now, Dak is looking and saying, well, there's Mahomes money and Watson money, so I think your point, like, give me that money or nothing, right? There'll be other guys up in that 35 to 45 range, I think, in the coming years. So he could hold off more and more, and it just becomes it's compound interest on Dallas here that they're accumulating because of what they could have paid, a year ago or 2 years ago by just extending Dak a little bit earlier. It just the price just keeps going higher and higher.
All right, we'll give you two oddball hypotheticals with the Browns. If you were to go outside with the Browns, but if you had a good NFL team and you needed a quarterback and a coach, and I gave you your choice, you could either have Baker Mayfield or Kevin Stefanski, what do you think?
I would take Baker. I think Stefanski's going to get some credit, obviously, for the turnaround and all that stuff. But I'm a Baker believer, and I think he's been a big part of that as well. And it's 1 year of evidence for Stefanski. So I'm going to lean toward Baker on that one for now.
If you had to bet, I know you guys are not a big running back. You're not a big running back believer, but if you had to bet your house more likely to go in the Hall of Fame, Nick Chubb or Myles Garrett, who you betting on?
I would say Myles Garrett. I think, unfortunately, we're going to have an impact on Hall of Fame voters as well with running backs, 10, 15 years from now. But at the same time, if Curtis Martin could get in, Curtis Martin is funny. Like, I never watched him years ago. I was like, man, I'm watching the Hall of Fame running back. I got to get 1,000 yards every year, and it's solid. So who knows? But I'll lean Myles Garrett on that one.
Yeah, the reason I lean Nick Chubb is because I feel like as a running back, you need less Hall of Fame seasons than you do as a pass rusher. Who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I can see 5 to 7 years of elite play, and it feels like a full career for a running back.
I mean, in all honesty, you mentioned the Curtis Martin, and I know some people will gasp when I say this, but how often did you watch Frank Gore as a big Hall of Fame running back?
Never. I mean, this is the one we argue about all the time. He's like my age. He's almost 40, and it's impressive what he's doing. I'm very impressed with what he's doing. But like trotting out there for 8 more years at 3.8 yards per carry is not bad. That's not Hall of Fame impressive. It's just durability impressive after all his college injuries as well. So I don't think he's a Hall of Famer.
I mean, he's a compiler, right? We talk about that in the Baseball Hall of Fame a lot, but he's a compiler.
Carl Yastrzemski, baseball. Carl from Boston. Yes, is a Hall of Famer, but he tacked on like 8 extra years of compiled stats.
Right. I'll tell you another guy who I don't think is a Hall of Famer, and this is a way minority opinion. I'm curious your take on this. Eli Manning.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. I think that's almost a 50-50 split. I understand both arguments. I talked myself out of Phillip Rivers recently as he retired, and I think Rivers had it has been better. Throw for throw has been better than Eli. But the playoffs matter, and moments matter, and championships do matter if you're not dragged to them, if you're a part of them. Eli was absolutely a part of both, obviously. So, I think Eli ultimately gets in. I'd probably say no to him. I'd probably say no to Phillip Rivers, but to me, there's something about just being like top 5 in your era. And Eli's not even close, and Rivers is still probably in the outside looking in. So I would say no to Eli, but the playoffs do matter, and that still probably ends up being the deciding factor for Eli.
We're talking with Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus. Steve, if the Browns don't, get Marcus Lattimore, and they, you talk about Greedy Williams coming back, whatever, but they need to add another corner. When you look at the free agency market, who makes sense for the Browns, do you think?
This free agent cornerback market is really difficult. I keep describing it as one where, first off, I said it's tough to predict cornerback play, but like this free agent market exemplifies that. All of these guys have been good at one point. So if you can get a William Jackson, he's number 1 on our board. I think he's great, potentially great, but he's had some good 2019. So it really is one of those where I think if you want to add depth pieces, like the slot players are really good. Mike Hilton's of the world, I think could be great. And then maybe some low risk options like a Jason Verrett. He's coming off a season where he was the number 8 rated cornerback for us, but he played 800 snaps. He hasn't played, more than 4 snaps in like 4 years. So there's risk there from an injury standpoint. I would try to buy low on this cornerback market with slot type of players, with Jason Verrett, and then let Greedy potentially be that outside corner or look to the draft there. So I think the value is the slot players in the corner in free agency, and the outside corners like Xavier Rhodes, Quentin Dunbar, Chidobe Awuzie, all those guys probably going to be overpriced for the risk that you would incur by bringing those guys in.
I want the Browns to sign Chidobe Awuzie just so most of the people in town have to say his name. By the way, you mentioned William Jackson. I'm curious, if the Bengals have to franchise, and we know they're notoriously cheap, although they did spend for the first time ever in free agency last year, if they have to franchise either him or Lawson, who will they and who should they?
Yeah, I would go William Jackson, and I love Carl Lawson. So we have Jackson as our top corner, and we have Lawson as our number 2 edge in free agency, and he's got the best pass rushing grade of any of these free agents over the last couple of years. But cornerback position, it's the trickle down effect is so important. Trying to replace the William Jackson, even though he's been a little inconsistent the last couple of years, so I would go with Jackson just because the potential is just incredible. He's still just 28 years old.
If Carl, I know
Here in the heart of Christ, Jehovah, may you forgive me. Thank you for sending your Son for all humanity, because every man sinned, begging God to forgive. O Lord Jah, may I admit sexual morality, breaking more laws. O Lord, help me comprehend down to the end, because the devil wants to trap us like a lion. I'm going to help my family keep trying. There's no righteous man on earth who always does good and never sin. Falling short of the glory of God, my friend. Peace.